My dear students, kindly go through the reviews of few prominent books that you should read during this time. The first book is Two Women. Two Women is a novel written by Alberto Moravia, published in Italian in 1957 as La Chiocciara. Based partially on Moravia's own experience during World War II. The novel tells the story of Caesarea, a strong willed widow who is forced to flee Rome in 1943 with her 18-year-old daughter Rosetta. The two women suffer hunger, fear, betrayal, the brutality of their fellow peasants, and finally raped at the hands of liberators. Sarah loses her faith, and although she and her daughter are survivors, she comes to the conclusion that human nature, including her own, holds many possibilities for evil. 3 Days in June, written by James O'Connell. James O'Connell was a 22-year-old private in the 3rd Battalion of the Parachute Regiment when, along with his fellow soldiers, he was deployed to the Falklands to engage the Argentinian invaders. 3 Days in June describes the last few days of the war when three para fought the Battle of Mount Longdon. By the time the battle was over, 23 of their number were dead and 48 wounded. Sergeant Ian Mackay was awarded the Victoria Cross for his bravery. James O'Connell was left with his life changing injuries, the result of a bullet that entered his face through his nose and removed his cheekbone and right eye. This makes the book more readable as it is the perceptions, the humor, the fears, the honesty, and the sheer heroism of these men that shines through. When Tripara began their assault under cover of darkness on Mount Longdon in June 1982, nobody knew what to expect. The three platoons of B Company each approached the mountains silently, treading carefully through a series of defensive minefields. But following an explosion, fighting quickly escalated with shocking speed and severity, resulting in some of the bloodiest close hand fighting. Terrible injuries and shocking loss of life experienced by military troops since the Korean War. Recreating Tripara's bloody Falklands battle from multiple angles, James O'Connell, who fought there and was seriously injured himself, has written a gut wrenching 360-degree classic. Before writing this book, O'Connell revisited the Falklands 5 times with comrades and Argentine soldiers and literally walked through the battle with them, step by step, creating an unprecedented masterpiece of immense military publishing. Sunrise by the Sea, written by Jenny Colgan. Marisa finds herself adrift after her grandfather dies. Her grief moves with her to Mountain Polburn in Cornwall, where she stays away from her neighbor and the welcoming community. Jenny Colgan's books read as perfect standalone titles, though this as an introduction will undoubtedly call you back to read the rest of the series. It is acknowledged that grief is something we all feel differently. Marisa's feel touchable and relatable, and any reader positively ached for her. Polly and her wonderful family are as joyful as ever, even with money difficulties. A reader can simply adore getting to know Marisa's neighbor, and again, Jenny Colgan adds real depth to the characters. The storyline with delicious glimpses of Italy. After the death of her grandfather, Marisa moved to a remote tidal island of Cornish coast, where she could enjoy peace and calmness. Since the death of her beloved grandfather back in Italy, she has been struggling to find a way out of her grief. Perhaps this will be the perfect place for her to recuperate. But Mount Polburne is a far cry from the sleepy little place she was imagining. Between her noisy piano teaching Russian neighbor and the hustle and bustle of a busy community, Marisa finds solitude is not so easy to come by, especially when she finds herself somehow involved with a tiny bakery. My dear students, kindly go through the reviews of these books. Two Women, written by Alberto Moravia. 3 Days in June, written by James O'Connell, and Sunrise, written by Jenny Colgan. The first two books, The Two Women and 3 Days in June, are written on the basis of war. If you read these books, you will get an idea of history also. And the third book, Sunrise by the Sea, is written on the background of death of a grandfather. All these three books are very interesting. You guys try to purchase and read.